Have you ever wondered what it was like to rule like a god king? To walk the halls of a palace shimmering with gold and guarded by countless secrets? Then forget everything you thought you knew about pharaohs, because today we're taking a trip through time to the extravagant world of the pharaohs. Hey there, history lovers. This is James, and welcome to the Flair Chronicles channel. Today we're taking a trip back in time to explore the extravagant world of the pharaohs. This might be new to you, as it's the first time you'll hear about their mystery lives. So let's start. Ancient Egypt, often called the cradle of civilization, is a land that conjures images of grand pyramids, magnificent temples, and enigmatic sphinxes. The realm of the pharaohs, stretching along the Nile River, was a complex society with a rich tapestry of culture, religion, and daily life that has fascinated historians and archaeologists for centuries. This story delves into the intricate details of what life was like for the people of ancient Egypt, exploring their homes, occupations, religious practices, and social structures. From the bustling streets of Thebes to the serene villages along the Nile. The Nile, lifeblood of Egypt. The Nile River, often described as the lifeblood of Egypt, was central to the existence of the ancient Egyptian civilization. The river's annual flooding deposited nutrient-rich silt onto the land, making it exceptionally fertile and allowing agriculture to thrive. The Egyptians developed an intricate system of irrigation to harness the Nile's waters, ensuring a stable food supply that supported their society. The agricultural calendar dominated life along the Nile. The year was divided into 3 seasons: Akhet, flooding season; Pere, planting season; and Shamu, harvest season. During Akhet, from June to September, the fields were inundated with water and farming activities were put on hold. This period was also a time for the maintenance and repair of irrigation canals and religious festivals celebrating the bounty of the Nile. As the waters receded in Pere from October to February, farmers sowed their crops, primarily wheat and barley, which were staple foods. The final season, Shamu, from March to May, was harvest time. This cyclical pattern of life, dictated by the Nile, shaped the rhythm of daily activities and the spiritual beliefs of the Egyptians. Daily life in the pharaohs is Egypt, housing and architecture. The architecture of ancient Egypt reflected the social hierarchy and the availability of materials. Commoners lived in simple mud brick houses, while the elite resided in more elaborate structures with gardens, pools, and intricate decorations. Homes of the common people. Ordinary Egyptians' houses were modest. Built from sun-dried mud bricks, they were designed to keep the interiors cool in the scorching desert heat. Typically, these homes had flat roofs, which served as extra living space where families could sleep during hot nights or store grain and other supplies. A typical house had a small courtyard, a main living area, and storage rooms. The walls were often whitewashed to reflect sunlight and keep the interior cool. Furniture was minimal, usually consisting of woven mats, stools, and clay storage jars. Despite their simplicity, these homes were functional and provided a comfortable living environment for the average family. Homes of the elite. The residences of the wealthy were much more elaborate. They were often multi-roomed with extensive gardens, reflecting the owner's status and wealth. These houses featured painted walls, tiled floors, and intricate carvings. The gardens were adorned with ornamental pools and were planted with fruit trees and flowers, creating a serene and beautiful environment. Inside, the elite homes were furnished with wooden furniture, inlaid with ivory and gold. Household enslaved people and servants were common, and they lived in separate quarters within the estate. These homes not only provided luxury, but also demonstrated the power and prestige of their inhabitants. Occupations and economy. The economy of ancient Egypt was primarily rural, but it also included a wide range of professions that supported and benefited from the agricultural surplus. Farmers. The majority of Egyptians were farmers. They worked the land, planting and harvesting crops that fed the entire population. Farmers were also responsible for maintaining the irrigation systems, which required coordinated efforts and a deep understanding of the Nile's rhythms. Craftsmen and artisans. Skilled craftsmen and artisans were highly valued in ancient Egyptian society. They produced various goods, from pottery and jewelry to furniture and statues. These artisans worked in workshops and were often organized into guilds. Their skills were passed down through generations, and their work adorned the elite's temples, tombs, and homes. Merchants and traders. Trade was an essential part of the Egyptian economy. Merchants traveled along the Nile and beyond, trading goods like grain, papyrus, linen, and luxury items like gold and incense. The Nile was a natural highway facilitating trade and communication between different kingdoms' parts. Religion and beliefs. Religion permeated every aspect of life in ancient Egypt. The Egyptians believed in a pantheon of gods and goddesses, each with specific roles and attributes. The pharaoh was considered a divine ruler, the living embodiment of Horus on earth, and the intermediary between the gods and the people. Major deities. Ra was the sun god and was considered the king of all gods. During the day, he was believed to travel across the sky in his solar boat and through the underworld at night. The sun's daily rising and setting symbolized the cycle of life, death, and rebirth. Osiris. Osiris was the god of the afterlife, resurrection, and fertility. He was often depicted as a mummified king, holding a crook and flail. The story of Osiris's death and resurrection was central to Egyptian religious beliefs, symbolizing the promise of eternal life for the deceased. Isis, Osiris's wife, Isis, was a goddess of magic, healing, and motherhood. She was revered as a protector of the pharaoh and the nation, and her worship spread beyond Egypt to other parts of the ancient world. Horus, the falcon-headed god, was the son of Osiris and Isis. He was associated with kingship in the sky. The pharaoh was seen as Horus's earthly incarnation, embodying his strength and divine authority. Anubis. Anubis was the god of mummification in the afterlife. Depicted with the head of a jackal, he guided the souls of the dead through the underworld and presided over the weighing of the heart ceremony, which determined the deceased's fate in the afterlife. Religious practices. Temple worship. Temples were the centers of religious life. They were not just places of worship, but also economic and administrative hubs. Priests performed daily rituals to honor the gods, including food, drink, and incense offerings. Major temples, such as those at Karnak and Luxor, were architectural marvels that showcased the devotion and resources dedicated to the gods. Festivals. Religious festivals were an essential part of the Egyptian calendar. These festivals celebrated various gods and goddesses and marked important agricultural events. The Opet festival, for example, celebrated the union of Amun-Ra, the king of the gods, with the pharaoh. The festival included processions, feasts, and public celebrations that reinforced the divine nature of the pharaoh's rule. Funerary practices. The Egyptians believed in an elaborate afterlife, and funerary practices were designed to ensure safe passage to the next world. Mummification preserved the body, while tombs were filled with goods and offerings for the afterlife. The Book of the Dead, a collection of spells and incantations, guided the deceased through the underworld and helped them overcome obstacles. The pharaohs and their palaces. The pharaoh was the central figure in ancient Egyptian society, embodying political and religious authority. The palaces of the pharaohs were not only residences, but also centers of government and symbols of royal power. The role of the pharaoh. The pharaoh was seen as a god-king responsible for maintaining Ma'at, the cosmic order and balance. This responsibility extended to all aspects of life, including justice, agriculture, and military affairs. The pharaoh's decrees were law and their image was omnipresent, reinforcing the divine nature of the ruler's authority. Royal palaces. The Great Palace at Thebes. Thebes, one of the most important cities of ancient Egypt, was home to several royal palaces. The Great Palace, located near the temple complex of Karnak, was a sprawling structure that included administrative offices, living quarters, and ceremonial halls. It was the heart of the pharaoh's government and a symbol of his power. Palace of Akhenaten at Amarna. During Akhenaten's reign, the capital was moved to a new city, Akhetaten, modern-day Amarna. The royal palace at Amarna was built uniquely, reflecting the pharaoh's religious reforms. The palace complex included open courtyards, gardens, and residential quarters, emphasizing light and openness. Akhenaten's focus on the worship of the Aten, the sun disk, influenced the design and decoration of the palace, the Malkata Palace. Located on the west bank of the Nile near Thebes, the Malkata Palace was built by Amenhotep III. It was one of the largest palatial complexes of the New Kingdom, featuring grand halls, vast courtyards, and a large artificial lake. The palace served as a residence for the pharaoh and his court, and a venue for diplomatic and ceremonial events. The royal family and nobility. The pharaoh was at the top of the social pyramid, followed by the royal family and the nobility. The royal family included the pharaoh's consorts, children, and close relatives. Nobles held high-ranking positions in the government, military, and religious institutions. They were often rewarded with land and wealth, which they used to build grand estates and tombs. Soldiers. The military was an important institution in ancient Egypt. Soldiers protected the borders, maintained internal order, and participated in campaigns to expand the empire. A successful military career could lead to social mobility, with soldiers earning land and titles as rewards for their service. Advances in science and medicine. Ancient Egypt made significant contributions to science and medicine. The Egyptians deeply understood anatomy and practiced advanced medical procedures, including surgery and dentistry. Medical texts such as the Ebers Papyrus contain detailed descriptions of diseases, treatments, and medicinal plants. In addition to medicine, the Egyptians excelled in astronomy and engineering. They developed a calendar based on the lunar and solar cycles, essential for agricultural planning. Their architectural and engineering skills are evident in constructing the pyramids, temples, and monumental structures that have stood the test of time. Sculpture and statues. Sculpture was a prominent art form in ancient Egypt. Statues of gods, pharaohs, and nobles were created to honor and immortalize them. These sculptures were often placed in temples and tombs, serving religious and commemorative purposes. The statues were typically carved from stone, such as limestone, granite, and sandstone, and were painted to enhance their lifelike appearance. Wall paintings and reliefs. Wall paintings and reliefs adorned the interiors of temples, tombs, and palaces. They depicted scenes from daily life, religious rituals, and mythological events. The art was highly stylized, with figures shown in profile in a strict hierarchy of scale, where the size of a figure indicated its importance. Colors were symbolic, with specific hues representing different aspects of life and the divine. Life in the palaces of the pharaohs was a rich tapestry, woven from the threads of agriculture, religion, art, and social structure. With its life-giving floods, the Nile River was the heart of Egyptian civilization, shaping the rhythms of daily life and the people's spiritual beliefs. The grand temples, majestic palaces, and bustling cities reflected the power and sophistication of a society that has left an indelible mark on history. So what do you think? Was being Pharaoh a dream come true or a gilded cage? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. I love hearing from you. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more adventures in history. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an upload.